Everyone's losing their minds over ChatGPT 5. But here's what they're not telling you. After spending a week testing it alongside Claude Opus, Gemini, and even some tools you've never heard of, I discovered something shocking. ChatGPT 5 might actually be a downgrade for some academics. And that free tool that I accidentally found, it's creating better lecture slides than my teaching assistant. Today, we're cutting through the marketing BS to show you what ChatGPT 5 can and can't do, plus alternatives that might actually save you hundreds of dollars this semester. Hi, friends. Welcome to the AI Academics Podcast. I'm your host, Professor Dr. Leonard Nacke. This is the show where my co-host, Bukai Barimov, and I are geeking out about the latest AI developments without getting too scientific about it. We want to help you get the valuable AI insights and actionable strategies that actually matter. So grab a coffee, tune in, and let's chat about why AI isn't the job-stealing monster that everyone thinks it is. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying the show, make sure to hit subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get started. Hey, Vuger, how are things with you this week?
Hey, Leonard. Apart from the very hot weathers here, all good.
Yes. We're all struggling a little bit with the climate.
How are you doing? Nice to be here again, chatting with you about this stuff, which we love to talk about. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Definitely a lot of things that we've seen that have changed in the last little bit. I think one of the biggest things that we wanted to talk about today as well is basically the advent of ChatGPT 5, which was big news this week. And I think one of the things that we encountered was that people were saying, there was all of this stuff that talked about how it's going to fundamentally change everything about the way that we work with AI. And I think the hype machine was very high up. And what we saw was that in the end, a lot of people were not as happy in terms of what it delivered. So I think that's a very interesting thing to keep in mind there. One of the things that you see that has changed with ChatGPT 5 when you're running it, if you're in the Plus or Pro plan, I'm not in the Pro plan, so I don't get the Pro option here. But essentially what you can do is you can now switch between fast and thinking. And that was actually when it rolled out at the beginning, that wasn't even visible. I think there it was just GPT-5 and GPT-5 thinking. And again,
Yes.
people weren't quite sure. People weren't quite sure, when does it do the automatic switching? How does it, go about, how does it, all of that work? And so that was, I think, very frustrating for a lot of users. And there were also a lot of people that were talking about the specific use case of having an older model, having a legacy model like GPT-4o and GPT-4.5 and other models that they wanted to work with, and they didn't get access to that. So what you essentially have to do then is you have to go into your settings menu, and then in your settings menu, you can now select show additional models. And once that's toggled on, they're right back here and you can see it.
I think legacy models, you should be seeing now more models. Yeah.
Exactly. Because now we can see O3. And a lot of people were saying, O3 is still better at reasoning. And when they want O3, there is maybe, just a much better use case for using O3 and having that readily available. And so people were complaining that they don't want ChatGPT to make that choice for them. They want to make that choice themselves. And the interesting thing is also when I just click that, and this might just be that it just refreshed, or this might just be because I toggled that option on. Now I have the Thinking Mini available. And I think this was the main complaint for people, that basically the mini model, like a lot of people had this conspiracy theory that the mini model was just by default being selected so that just ChatGPT saves a bunch of money right away because it's much cheaper to run these mini models, and that, they can't just force the larger model. And that's, of course, an interesting thing. Whether or not you buy into that as a conspiracy theory, I think doesn't really matter. There was this meme with baby just walked. I'm pretty sure you've seen that, where it's just like the kind of excitement from, actually, let's just put that in here. The excitement from the different models that is different. So here we have the thinking model that's like, okay, this is what you got to do. Step 1 to step 2, step 3. And then if you do, let's see, the legacy model. So if we did 4.0, and then we'd have to start a new chat. And let's just do auto and GPT-5, just see kind of what happens here. I think these are the ones that everyone's just playing around with. And then it's like, okay, it's a little bit more down to earth, just a little bit briefer in the response. It doesn't really give you too much to go with. And then if you had, the older models, people have oops, I need to be able to type. People had reported that it just like there's a lot more cheering. So here you can see this is almost like not too different from O3, right? Like there's definitely a 5-step guide on like what you should be doing, and just kind of seems to have a little bit of a different personality. Now, if we go to 4.1, I think this was the one where people are like, okay, yeah, this is definitely the one that's a little bit more emphatic. But it's actually not the case. If you look at that, it's curt, it's short. Yeah, there's a lot of cheering on there, but that's about it. It's not too crazy in terms of the feedback that you're getting. So it is interesting that there was a lot of feedback. A lot of people are wondering about like, why is it taking away these choices from us? And we're just saying it's not too bad, I would say. So first of all, hi to everyone that's tuning in. We just got a bunch of folks. Last episode, you might have seen that for some reason our LinkedIn integration wasn't really working, so we didn't actually get any of the comments on the show. But we do want to say a quick shout out to everyone that's joining us on X and on LinkedIn today, and on YouTube, and on wherever we are, Substack as well. So we don't get all the comments fed in here, but for sure we'll be checking in with you. So yeah, by all means, if at any point in time you want to leave a comment, we're more than happy to hear your comments. But Vugar, what's your take on ChatGPT 5? Have you played around with it? What is it like for you? Have you noticed any differences?
Yeah, as first of all, I think I have to also mention this is I use the plus plan, so I don't have access to the pro plan. I don't know how the result would be with the pro plan. Because in the demo they were most probably using the pro plan to demonstrate this. They just created a game, for example, for learning the French language, let's say. And the result they got there, I copy paste the exact prompt on my ChatGPT with the pro plan, with the deepest thinking model, and tried to create that game myself. The result was totally different and the poorer, I would say. And yes, because their result on the show was better than what I got. I tried it for multiple times, and I think the pro plan is definitely doing better. The plus plan, you have to play a lot with your prompts, and if you want to get the result, because with very simple prompt, they got this kind of game, no? The gamification of the language learning process. But what I get was totally different. So this is the first comment. Maybe there's a huge difference, I would say, in plus plan. But in terms of my daily tasks and also the other tasks I use ChatGPT, it still depends on the very good prompt. The better your prompt.
Absolutely. Yeah, still. And like knowing, I think it's like knowing for a lot of it as well, like knowing you're using a thinking model. So now you have to do these step-by-step instructions and really break things down. And I actually think the differences are so minor with all of these frontier models at this point. If you're using Gemini 2.5, I think Gemini 2.5 was really where the biggest jump happened, because all of a sudden, things got really good. And then, like GPT-5 is kind of at that level. And so is Opus 4.1. We're going to have a quick look at how that replies as well. But before we go over into these ones, let me just switch back again to our window here. Another news that was interesting in that regard that I just quickly wanted to mention is there was also this startup that is now essentially claiming that it has AI models that are so tiny that they are using way less power than the bigger models, right? They call them chicken's brain and fly's brain, which is kind of funny. But basically, they found a way. And if you ever watched the comedy show Silicon Valley, it was all about compression. I don't know if anyone ever seen that comedy, but it's all about the compression algorithm, right? Like how powerful it actually is to have good compression. And of course, in the age of AI, the compression is a huge part of what makes things interesting. So here we have this startup from Spain. And this is interesting because in Europe, we haven't seen a lot of big players entering the AI game. A lot of it is concentrated in North America. So I'm kind of excited to see that Spain is, throwing the hat in the ring. Not that they have their best models or whatever, but that they're actually working on making things more compact, making this more energy efficient. I think that's a big one for many people that are concerned about the energy consumption of these models. And so that we're seeing, okay, now we can find models that are more compressed, that run easier. And, this is also interesting with a lot of people. We reported about this, I think, in our one of our very first episodes, I think our second one, where we talked about Apple AI and all of the promises that they made. And, I think a lot of people are looking at how can we integrate this in real time on the phone so that it actually becomes something that's really useful. And I think, yeah, we got a feedback there. I still use Gemini right now from Ilham. Hopefully pronounce that correctly. And yeah, I think a lot of us, very happy with what some of these models do. And it's just a matter of how do they connect with everything. But to me, that's a very interesting thing that we've seen there, that, we now have these compressed models, or this way to do these compressions, 60% compression. Definitely something I think that is worth keeping an eye on, or 90% compression here. So really something that is quite interesting for running AIs on even smaller devices. And, if you're thinking about the future, we had this episode where we were talking about the brain chips and other stuff as well, right? Like there's a lot of potential where some of this stuff can go. Any thoughts on that, Vuger? I mean,
Yeah, this is interesting. To be honest, we are both not an expert in this field. I really still don't understand how they do it. They always like it. You remember this DeepSeek story when they just came up saying that we are the cheapest model. We are trained. We are almost doing the same thing that OpenAI doing in spending billions of dollars, but we are just with very little money. We do that same thing. These things I do not really understand well. I must say. And the question is, why not then AI at the OpenAI or Google not doing the same thing then? So this should be a legit question, huh?
Because I think they're focused on other things. They're focused on like making it like better for certain things. And to some degree, that's fine. But I've also seen there was a paper, maybe we can find that for the next episode and dig that up. But there was a paper that was essentially saying, like AI is right now maybe not automating the right things, right? Like a lot of people want some more mundane tasks to be automated and get that done. And that's not, always the case. Sometimes it's making that a little bit more difficult. And so this is really, I think, the tricky bit, like applicability. One of the things, like with the backlash that came, as in like all those students are using ChatGPT for the assignments, was of course the study mode, which we went through in detail in our last episode, or one of our last episodes. Yes, and then what happened, I just wanted to show that's a feature in Claude now as well. So Claude now has a study plan feature where essentially I selected study plan. And then it just started this prompt, basically create a study plan. So basically the way Claude circumvented this is just like they have a pre-prompt. So basically a prompt that automatically pastes if you push a button. And then it just asks you questions and works with you in terms of what are you studying for. And, let's say I'm studying for my psych exam. And how much time do you have? I have 1 day. So let's see what it suggests, what I could do then in terms of studying. And then now it's searching my Google Drive because I was reckless enough to connect it. So it'll probably find some of my psych slides that I have in there, and like all of the teaching materials that I've used in undergraduate classes and things like that. So it'll be able to unearth some of these things and, might yield some interesting results, or maybe not. But it'll definitely take some time to come back with the results. Yeah, it sees all of my research related documents. So sounds like you want to do something that is more a research methods thing, because those are the kind of courses that I teach. And so here it's asking what level is a psych exam. And now you can see it's already going to work with what Claude does best. And this is something that we've explained in the past as well, is Claude is really good at these artifacts and still really excels at making these artifacts. So what it does is it just creates, I'm guessing, a cheat sheet or an interactive site. It looks like. It doesn't really look very interactive here. So it's probably just a study plan overview for you here that it just creates in an HTML file and probably formats to look really nice, so that you actually feel like, oh yeah, this is something that I can enjoy quite a bit. So yeah, let's see what it comes up with. Definitely, oh yeah, there's the script. So it is interactive. Nice, okay. So we can see here, basically, it's just an interactive checklist where I can check off the items that I need to do, practice questions, quick review. So it just gives me a system, which is always nice. I love checklists and systems, and just kind of tells you what to do. I mean, these things are obvious. And then focus on difficulty topics. Yeah, so you can see this is kind of useless because it really just talks about the processes like that I have to do anyways. It doesn't really give me any content here. So this is really just focused on the planning, and then just here gives you a little bit of an like, this is kind of something that you should look into, but it doesn't give you flashcards or anything. So you kind of have to do a follow-up prompt of sorts and just kind of see how all of that goes. And yeah, so thanks everyone that's sending some hellos still in the chat. And yeah, it is definitely something that's quite interesting. Nixon says it's awesome. I think it's definitely, we all like Claude for that reason, because it can really introduce some of these things. But wait for this. So this is something I found recently, which is just kicker. It's called ZAI or ZAI. So just the letter Z and then .ai. And wow, man. So I've talked about GenSpark before and how cool that is for creating slides. But this thing right now, it seems to be completely free. You just log in, and I don't think I've paid for anything here. I just kind of clicked onto it. And then I just hit a simple prompt, create lecture slides for psychology introduction class. Well, no, it moved. Psychology introduction lecture about cognition and emotion. And I just went to work. This is an agentic AI, kind of like GenSpark is, or like GPT-5 would be. And it pulls images from the internet that actually look kind of good. It pulls icons from the internet that look kind of good. And then it creates slides that I think you could almost take to class. Like, they're pretty good. So, and of course, you could share this thing. So if I hit the share button, you could copy the link, you can export it as a PDF, which is kind of cool. Or you could just run it right here and there and play it in your browser. And then it will just run the slideshow for you. And that, and you know, I haven't paid anything yet. I'm sure there's a threshold or a limit that I'll reach at some point. But this has been something that when I saw this, I'm just like, okay, now we're also cooked for the final presentations from the students, because it's probably going to be even less work even prepping the slides, because as you can see here, pretty much these slides are really good. And yeah, so it even finds, you know, major emotional theories. Not really all of the ones, like Canon Bard, I think is great. James Lang. Yeah, so some of the ones interesting.
But you can edit it, or
you can't edit it. No. So that's a bonus that you have with GenSpark. GenSpark lets you edit it. And GenSpark recently introduced this thing called developer, a Vibe developer thing or whatever. So that's like an agent that they have now where it integrates Claude Code. So they re-implemented Claude Code, and they let you kind of, you know, build your own apps with it. This is something for another episode, because I want to play with that a little bit more. It's also something that we're exploring as part of our upcoming, maybe I can toss that link in here somewhere, but we have, so Vur and I are doing some stuff. We're currently trying to figure out if we're going to do the summer camp or not, but we'll have another version of the AI research tools that you can see on the top here. But there is also the AI agents, let's call it, webinar. I'm going to put that in here. So this is one that I'm giving with one of my postdocs. So that might be interesting if you're looking into stuff like that, where we're essentially having these agents and we're looking at agents within responsible AI. So if you want to scan that QR code up here, so that will take you to that site with the agents. But as you can see here, it's really kind of cool, because it even has some flow charts in it. It has a breakdown. It has this whole debate, cognition, emotion. That is definitely something that's interesting in psychology. Might not be all the way up to date, but I think for an introductory lecture, this is definitely a solid starting point. It is, as usual, with a lot of this AI output, it's a little bit on the short side, right? So really, you probably want to expand it, because this is like literally probably just a 30-minute lecture here. And a lot of intro lectures, as you might know at the university, are more like an hour or longer, right? Or 2 hours or something. And then there's exercises and other things. So just something to keep in mind as this kind of stuff is happening. Yeah, your thoughts on that, Vugar? What do you think about this? Is pretty cool.
Personally, yeah. Today is the first time, like I think most of our visitors or anyone who is watching right now to us, it's my first time I heard about this is ZAI. Which looks and sounds good, but I would definitely love if it would be possible to, you can download it and you can also as like PPT file, and then is it possible? If
it is not right now, it's just a PDF,
yes,
right? So that's right now, that's the
now.
I also,
yeah.
Once I'm in this presentation mode, I just noticed I don't actually know how to get out of it. So this is a little bit of a, okay, you got me stuck. I guess it's because I got to close this and then I'm back here. Okay. So basically it's a new window and you just got to
Yes.
close the window and then you get back.
So definitely would be lovely to have that option to download as a PPT file and then the
Yeah.
possibility to edit what is, I think just over there is it an edit button here? No, just come over the slide, like it's
Oh, the
edit.
edit button. Oh, look at that. Okay,
Yeah.
I can edit it.
Then
So
it is
basically you
nicer.
prompt edited. Okay, so that's
Yes.
pretty good. So then you have to
Yeah.
reprompt it and then you can just describe your editing ideas and it'll just redo it because the underlying stuff is just HTML code. So you could
And under each sentence, it gives you option like
yeah,
on
every
the
element, even
ChatGPT canvas. If you
yeah,
write on ChatGPT canvas, you will have kind of same option. When you select a certain part of the text, you can just edit that part. Here also is kind of the same principle. You can apply, you can edit, which is nice, which is definitely nice. If you can download it as PPT file, then why not? Because it's the structure looks really nice because otherwise it would take I usually my presentation it took me hours. I prepare for my
exactly, right?
yeah, and therefore it's definitely a huge time saver. I would say.
Yeah, and you could reprompt, like talk about the colors more, and again, like way more detail, and I'm sure that would all be fine. In this case, I'm now trying to change that icon. So just if you think about it in terms of making work faster, simple things should just be editable, as in like editable with your hands and not with a prompt. Because here, exchanging an icon would be, a tenth of the time it takes to prompt for an icon. Because now it's doing the thinking. It's kind of got to think about, okay, where is it in the slide? I got to find it. I got to rewrite all of this HTML code, which is what it's doing now. And then it's probably going to attempt to give me a better icon. And we don't even know if that icon's going to be much better. But, that's an interesting thing, I think, to keep in mind here. Yeah.
So we have many highs from Ghana, from
Yeah.
India. Hello to everyone from
Egypt.
France.
Yeah, truly international audience. Thanks everyone for tuning in and watching us do this stuff. And yeah, as we're waiting, as you can see here, this is actually how it does so it literally just finds pictures on the internet and puts them in a CSS. So it is a bit of a, potpourri. And I think it's also, of course, a risk that some of the stuff might be, I think there might be issues that some of these images are not, supposed to be used somewhere. I think this is in general one of the things that you see with AI is that the internet is just one big boutique where things get just pulled and pushed and like put together. And, so yeah, I guess the death of the author debate that we had before, where it's just like everything is fair game if it's on a website somewhere. And that, of course, is not everyone's jam. So just something to keep in mind here as you're going through this. Then again, if I think about how a lot of undergrads build their slides, it's the same thing. It's Google image search, pick and choose, put something together. And then we in class always have to say, oh yeah, by the way, you have to make sure that you reference where it came from and how that all looks. Okay. So what happened is the bear is gone completely now.
Yes. Which
So it's like,
took
okay.
much time to do that. Just
It took a lot of
replacing
time.
one, yes.
And it didn't actually replace the bear icon. It just replaced the concept, basically. I think.
Not with better
Oh no,
one.
here it is. Here it is. There. Sorry, I went down here. So it actually like redid the entire slide. Wow. Okay. So this is actually a much better slide. So instead of just replacing the icon, by the way, it's the same, just a different color. And now it wiggles a little bit, has an animation here. But the slide looks much better. Less text, more, flow charts and things. There's a weird image in the top right here that maybe doesn't really belong there. But yeah, I guess, you could refine the slides and make that interesting. And yeah, for people that are wondering because we got a question here, what's the name of the AI? It's called Z.AI. It's just the letter Z AI. And yeah, right now it's free. You just got to kind of sign up for it. I mean, we all know if it's free, you're the product. So just keep that in mind, just like Google and other stuff. If it's free, somebody's tracking you in the back end somewhere and is mining your data like oil. So that's just something to keep in mind. Yeah. And yeah, thanks a lot for saying hi here, everyone. Yeah, so that was ZAI. I think we don't have too much time, so
yeah, maybe want to hear your thoughts on ChatGPT 5 because
Yes.
this was maybe a couple of words about again ChatGPT 5, which is did did they deliver the thing that you would that you were expecting? Is it better than your expectations, or did you have enough time to play with it and to decide, yeah, it's definitely better than GPT-4? And did you feel the difference?
Yeah, so one of the things right now that I'm really enjoying is like working with these agents. And of course, we have this name with, or this situation with the agents in ChatGPT 5 as well. And uh, for me, it's just a matter of like time. A lot of the time in agentic query, like the one I just started, is probably going to run for 15 minutes, maybe, 30 minutes or something like that. Where some of the more agent focused ones like GenSpark and ZAI or ZAI are much quicker to come to a result, right? Because they're only going to run for 5-6 minutes. And this was something I talked about with Perplexity Labs as well. So Perplexity Labs is another sort of agentic way of doing deep research. I think it's like a mix between deep research and pre-agents because it came out before a lot of the agents came along. But in theory, it really is an agent in the background. So what that does is it allows you to basically run through that entire idea of here's a topic that I want to find out more about, and this is the best way to do that. So just something to keep in mind. Yeah. So is it better? Is there like what what is there to think about it? I think it's not better. It's more automated. So I think for most users, it is better because it's less thinking involved in like doing the thing. And I think that was the whole point of it. They wanted to make it more user friendly. But then, of course, on the downside, for the more pro users or for the people that are doing the thing that we warned of in one of our last episodes, which was using it as a therapist of sorts, for that, it's not so good because, it's this whole idea of like putting a personality in there. Again, I think it's user friendliness is what they're trying to do here. So I get what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do that. But really, is it more user friendly? Because at the end of the day, it would make more sense to teach people how to prompt properly and how to set up their custom instructions so that they can make the most out of whatever output they want to receive. Like, for example, removing all the annoying M dashes, which it overuses, but we love M dashes, so we want M dashes in there, but just not as many as it puts in there. And then the other thing with I don't know if you've noticed that, you definitely noticed that on LinkedIn with everyone posting, it's like these posts where it's like quotation marks on everything
Yes.
when it wants to emphasize a word. And like, that's not necessary. Okay. You don't need to emphasize every third word. Like it overuses this stuff. And it's actually getting worse with each model. So ChatGPT 5 is still like horrible for that. And I'm having a really hard time untraining it because, as you know, and this is something we talked about in the past as well, negative prompts are not really effective. So if you say don't do something, it's not as effective because every mention of something is a pattern
Even
match.
in the custom instructions?
Because don't and do are very similar just in terms of like how it gets matched. So it's better. Remember what we said in the past. It's like it's better to say do this instead. So like if you have an opposite act or a positive, so reinforcing the positive is always better than trying to forbid something because it's really not good at like the forbidden things and the rules. And that is just the nature of how LLMs work. So I think that's one of the challenges that remains even with smarter models and upgrades and downgrades. And like for me, I don't like the more black box it is, like what we're watching right here with the agentic query that's going on there. It's obviously optimized to look cool, to have a wow effect for the user, because we can see that it kind of has its own little web browser there and it's going around the web and it's gathering information. But what is it actually doing, right? We could, if I go here, so we could look at activity and then, we actually get the breakdown and we actually kind of see what it's actually doing. And that's a little bit better. And of course, you can also take over the browser and stuff like that. But for most people, they won't even know that, right? They won't even go there. And for them, it's just like, oh, yeah, this looks like a really interesting thing. And it's like doing its magic in the background. But for me, it would be more like, yeah, let's customize this thing better for the things that annoy us, that are, very common. And for me, that doesn't even need to be just the visual things or the agentic behaviors. It really needs to be output. I want to be able to, you know, turn on and off things in the output that by default it just does. And yeah, so I don't like the black boxing. And this is another thing. And we mentioned that in our AI research tools webinar. That's now a year old, but like you said, we're going to do the update soon. So one of the things that people come to me and ask me is like, can I do my lit review with AI? And I have to say no, right? Because like if you follow Prisma or any like traditional literature review standards, it has to be replicable. And I'm sorry, but a black box is not replicable. Because we had a similar problem back when I was doing EEG research, and we were looking at some of the hyped, cool brain computer interfaces. One of them was called Emotive. There was the Muse headset and some of these. They were very user friendly. You could just put them on and things just happened. But the downside was you couldn't really understand what algorithm was going on there, right? Like, so just giving you the raw voltages on each sensor, it would give you attention scores and other things that it would just calculate, but it wouldn't give you like an under the hood look of how it would calculate these things. So that's tricky when you try to do science. You want to be able to lift the hood, look underneath it, and kind of see what's going on. And a lot of LLMs don't let you do that. LLMs don't let you do that. And that is frustrating, if you want to do something rigorous. And so, yeah, we don't recommend doing literature reviews with these AI tools, even though we've discussed a lot of AI tools that help you. And, for things like writing a grant or writing a related work section, I think they're super helpful and you can absolutely use them. But if you're doing a proper lit review as part of your master's or PhD thesis, you can't use them. It's just not rigorous enough. Yeah.
So yeah, basically you cannot ask a question on ChatGPT and then you just take it and put your own work. Yeah,
that's the crux of any AI, right? Like, sure, you get answers and sure, they help a lot in everyday life, but can you sell this as a research paper? No, like you still have to do the validation verification stuff. And, where does this get dangerous? It gets dangerous in areas where we're seeing doctors use them for diagnosis or other things, right? And you still have to validate the outcomes somehow and kind of try to get that sorted.
Exactly. And maybe a couple of last words from my side. This agentic mode of ChatGPT requires detailed prompting. You have to give a very detailed prompt to this agent, ChatGPT agent, to get the result you really want to have. And that was at least the case in my use cases. In many cases, whenever the very surface level prompts didn't give me the result that I really wanted to have. So that's maybe the one recommendation I can give to all users, that you have to be detailed in your prompt if you want to get. And also definitely this custom instructions work. And by time I added a lot of, a lot of sentences to that custom instructions, like adjusting ChatGPT's general results in all my chats with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I definitely recommend doing that as well, because the general ChatGPT, which everyone uses, of course, that does not provide because by time, it's more than 2 years, he kind of learned how to get the best result of it. And each time I saved all these sentences, all these prompts, and sometimes turned them into custom instructions and put them on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But I must again say, I have done all with the Plus plan. We don't have access to the Pro plan. So and I don't think that unless you are very rich, or even if I would have money, I'm not sure I would pay that much money for that, because the result I get from the Plus plan definitely works for me. Why I should pay more?
Well, and like what I mentioned earlier with the GenSpark thing, you can actually get access to ChatGPT 5 Plus as part of GenSpark, and that's only $20 a month. So that's how I do my Pro, not Plus, sorry, to the Pro usage. So that's how I do my Pro usage. I just do it through GenSpark, and that works quite nicely, and it's not as expensive. But of course, people are putting limitations on that. We're seeing even the automation companies like Make.com and others are now switching their pricing model. Even Replicate, this is one of the ones that we talked about in the past, to generate images. All of them are switching to credit-based pricing. Like Replicate was really great because you could use the newest image models and just run them there. You could train your own LoRa and Flux models and create images. But now it's not a per unit pricing anymore, but now it's prepaid. So you have to buy the credits, put them in there, and then it turns those credits into the money. And this, why that's happening? It's this whole idea of dynamic pricing that's taking over everything. You might have seen that at Walmart too, that people are now putting in LED displays instead of printed out stickers, so that the price with AI changes automatically based on the demand. This is absolutely nuts, right? So airlines have been using that for a long time. I think that they've just kind of adjusted the pricing based on your cookies and your behavior and things like that, and how much they think you're actually willing to pay versus what it actually costs them. And I think with AI, this is definitely a risky business that's happening right now, is that people are really trying to milk each of us as consumers to the maximum of their abilities. And I'm a little scared about that one. Okay, that's not such a nice, but that's an interesting point to end on, and maybe take that into another episode. But yeah.
And maybe a couple of verse. What is this here, Leonard? What do you see?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I can pop that into an even bigger thing right here. Yeah. So basically, one of the things that we want you to know is that we have a 3-hour webinar that we recorded a year ago, where we're trying to help you cut your stress in half with AI research tools. We're going to cut through all of the noise and really help you understand what actually matters. We're going to show you some of the tools that we use. I have like about 40 minutes in there where I just talk about prompting ethics frameworks that are really important for academics, that help you understand.
Which is still relevant today.
Yeah.
And the best part of that webinar is that prompting section, which you provided, Leonard.
Yeah. Because I think those are like really basic ideas that you really have to understand when it comes to using AI as an academic, because we have to use it a little bit differently. So something to really keep in mind and work on. So that's something we provide there. Like we said, we're going to update it. We're hoping to do an AI summer camp, but it's taking us too long to do the updates, and we're busy people. So it might be a fall camp instead of a summer camp, but it will happen, we promise. And we have been collecting people on the list. So I'm very excited for that to come out and update all of the tools. Okay, I think that's it for today. Did you have anything else, Vugar, that you wanted to mention before we close and start?
But for sure, we can promise that we will, if not summer camp, we will definitely updating webinar 2.0. The second version of the webinar will be coming. So we tried to do summer camp, but because of our schedules, we couldn't manage quite to do that. But considering all what is happening in the AI sphere, like now we have ChatGPT 5, Opus 4.1, and a lot of other, almost the interfaces of many AI tools changed. But basically, when you take this webinar, basically you can use it with many tools like a consensus, SciSpace, and many other tools, which is dedicated tools for the academic purposes. And in this webinar, we mostly talked about the dedicated AI tools rather than the frontier tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and others. And I think using dedicated tools works definitely better for specific purposes. And I definitely recommend doing that rather than going to ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is very good for general tasks, for like polishing texts that you write. But for dedicated tasks like finding the sources, the consensus is definitely one of our favorites. The SciSpace is doing a very nice job. They are broadening every day. So I recommend taking this webinar, and who takes this webinar will have a surprising deal for our upcoming webinar as well. And of course, we stay open to any question that our users might have on this webinar, or another question that we can be help of them. So that's it for today. Also, again, it was great chatting with you, Leonard, and looking forward to our next episode next week.
Yeah. And if you enjoyed this episode and you want more content like this, there are 3 quick things that you can do to support the show. First, hit subscribe in your podcast app so that you never miss an episode in the future. And it just takes 1 second, but it makes a huge difference in helping us and others to discover the show. And second, if you really value what we were talking about in today's discussion, please leave a rating, leave a like and review, or comment on YouTube or comment on LinkedIn. Your feedback really helps us improve the show and new listeners to find us. Finally, connect with us on social media, where we share AI insights that you won't find anywhere else. Thank you, everyone.